it was a very nice thought process that you shared with us, especially in the 3 parts. We have similar questions to you. Before we come to the questions, sir, I would like to talk about one more thing. The vital certification that we have initiated is also getting into all areas. So it is into residential, fitted spaces, Industry 4.0, and commercial buildings. So it is getting into everything. I will not speak about it more because otherwise Rakesh, he is going to present it, so I'm not going to eat up his content. Sir, I would like to ask you, do you think we are doing enough to automate on-site operations in India in the field of building constructions, and what more needs to be done?
Look, I think that in things like sustainability, technology, it's never enough. Yeah, but I would say that the bar is quite low at this point in time in the infrastructure space and the building space. I'll give you and I always feel that I've spent a large part of my career, by the way, in the hydrocarbons and energy space. Yeah, I'm just recently, everybody thinks I'm an expert in infrastructure. I've been at it for only the last 2.5 years since I joined Tata Projects. I've not done big infrastructure before that, honestly. I've spent a lot of time in the hydrocarbons, oil, gas, energy, and that space. And when I compare the hydrocarbons industry and the energy industry with the infrastructure, I would say the infrastructure industry is at least 2 decades behind. And believe me, I'm not making that statement lightly. Yeah. When I started my career in the early 90s, late 80s, the first 1 or 2 projects which we did, there was the concept which, the automation companies at that point in time, Honeywell was one of them. It was Tata Honeywell at that point in time. And many global companies came out with a distributed control system. Yeah, where you would have smart instruments and you would collect all that data and have bus bars linking them in a way. And you could actually sit in a control room and control the whole plant. Yeah, you could actually do that, and it was happening. I mean, there were very little operators at site. And this started, just believe me, in 88, 89 was the first project. In India, there was a project called Vikram Ispat, which was the first one to use an advanced DCS system. That has moved substantially higher. So, I mean, you look at the safety, the way the safety gets done in the hydrocarbon industry and versus the infrastructure, still a huge difference. The way technology gets done is a huge difference, right? Today, even today on the infrastructure side, in terms of technology, you have to beg people to use BIM, yeah, which is a 3D platform, and you have to actually force people, beg people, or finally force them into doing it by mandating it, right? It was in the mid-90s that the smart plant suite of products in the oil and gas industry was there, where all the projects were in 3D. All your pipelines, all your equipment used to be modeled, and you used to do space planning and everything 100%. And by the end of that decade, at the fag end of the 20th century, we could actually get bill of quantities out of even then, right? Today, it's much more advanced. So I'm saying that when you ask whether it's enough, sorry, I think we are far away from doing it, and it needs a rapid acceleration. And there are examples. There are similar industries who are doing it so well. It's so easy to learn from them and co-create.
Yes. So basically, we understand that even the users, we have to make more aware to use the best of the technologies. I always say that if the user in India will demand, then the supplier will do it. The second question I have is the architect and the technologist, they collaborate intensely to make the building smarter. Do you see this really happening on the ground? I'm not talking about only the top buildings, but a wider percentage of the buildings. So do you see it happening, and how as INBAC we can facilitate it, or how as a community we can facilitate it?
Again, I think that unfortunately the answer is no, it's not happening. Yeah, because, or it might be happening in a few of the cases. By and large, it's not happening. And that's again because that concept of co-creation is not there. And, one of the reasons for, substantial delays in projects and cost overruns is the fact that the concept designs, and not only the architectural, but just the concept designs of any facilities are not given enough time and effort It's not for lack of capabilities. We have this, there are different names for this. In infrastructure, they call it draft project report, DPR, or, in the building industry, there must be a different name for it, the concept design or whatever. We take it very lightly. Yeah. Especially, I would say that globally, you actually do 30% of the detailed design before you close the concept, right? Here, no one does design, any element of design during the concept stage. You just do hand sketches. You don't spend time. You don't spend money, right? The DPRs globally are somewhere between 6 and 7% of the project cost. Here, it's a fraction of 1% of the project cost. So if you don't spend time, you don't spend money. And then you have a procurement process which says that you first select architect. Only then, after you get the quantities, you will select the design engineer. After you get the quantities from the design engineer, you will select the MEP. It is that whole sequence which again is not. So I think industry has to learn to step out of all this and understand that intense amount of planning at the beginning is extremely essential to make all of this work well. Finally, it's about the user experience has to improve.
Get it, sir. What can be done to bridge the gap between energy efficiency designs on the design board and in the reality?
Yeah, I think, again, the need is first that unless we have a standard for energy efficiency, which is there and well aligned, is the first thing. And then when you design to actually have monitoring, we all talk about digital twins of facilities. Sorry. Unless we have this whole concept and we invest in it, and we actually have a digital twin at the concurrent with the project lifecycle, which then operates and tracks, and then you can actually track the effectiveness of what you have planned versus what you are actually seeing. It's very easy to be misled by the fact that you have designed it, but the results are not sure.
I think also that some certification like what we are going to do probably will help, because when there are exams, kids study.
Exactly.
So last question that I have is, according to you, which aspect of the building needs most of automation, and what will be your advice for all of us to achieve it, for the whole of the audience?
No, I think automation, anything which we do, one of the challenges for adopting automation is people look at it as a cost. Yeah? This is an additional cost. Why should I put this cost in? That's where, it's not that people don't want to do it. They always look at it as a cost, right? So if you evaluate that in terms of the benefits which you get, and then plan it accordingly, and then why are we doing automation? We are not doing automation for the sake of doing automation, right? Identify themes around why is automation essential, and what are the outcomes which we are going to be different, right? Is it safety and security, right? Is it going to improve safety and security? So are there levels of safety in your certification, levels of safety and security, right? It improves your experience from a certain level of safety to a certain level of safety. So then the user can see a different experience, a different outcome, and then decide that it makes sense to actually make this investment, right? So I think each of this, there is safety, security, there is, convenience, the whole user experience, the whole sustainability part of it. So I think it needs to be broken down into this automation is going to help us, not just, to show my friend that I can sit in the car and start my AC from here, but actually how is it going to change lives, or, how is it going to change outcomes of anyone who is going to have the experience of living in that space? I think that will be well meant.
Well said, sir. We always say that we are a community. We are looking forward to technology with social impact. Thank you very much for your answers.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience has any questions? This is your chance.
My question is about Make in India. In automation space, what do you think about the level of Make in India in automation, and whether Tata Projects gives preference to Make in India?
I don't know about the second question. I don't have an answer because I don't make those choices myself. So, but I would say that it's important that the whole Make in India has to be accelerated. Yeah? If we have now started making electronics and semiconductors in India, why can we not do automation products? And I think India is substantially moving towards a manufacturing economy. So a lot of manufacturing. Believe me, I think we all thought that designs don't happen in India. The global companies come out with designs which don't, are done either in Japan or Europe, and then, we adopt it here and do it here. You would be surprised the amount of global companies whose R&D is in India. So it's not for want of talent to be able to design this or conceptualize this. I think the Indian intellect doesn't have anything left to prove in the world, right? It's about how do we put an ecosystem around it, which enables that the level of compliance to the various standards of the Indian products is comparable to the global products. And then I think the Make in India will just accelerate.
Very well said.
Yeah.
One other question.
My name is Vinod Joshi from Intellect Process Solutions. We are working in INBAC and we are doing, as Sakhee told us, we are doing many things. In India, what we have observed that the awareness for the certifications and standards is very low. What are the efforts we need to take as INBAC to bring this culture of standards and certification and bring the quality in the entire ecosystem?
I think like anywhere else in the world and most of the industries, people are good followers, not leaders. Yeah? You'll always ask who else is using. So I would suggest that if you find out 2 or 3 really marquee brands who support this and make a start with them, the rest will really follow. Yeah? So I would say that rather than boiling the ocean, the effort should be to have really some strong brands who understand the importance of this and adopt it. And then it just spreads after that. That's the trend for use of any technology or any certification. If you would have seen, there are some early adopters who are innovative companies. You need to find them. They need to be, sort of your sponsors. They need to understand your product and own it, because believe me, those are the type of companies who make those investment decisions early, also have a good validation process, which validates whether your whole system of certification is good enough or not. They will also help you, give you feedback to make this, if there are some gaps. And then when they adopt, it becomes easier to sell it to others, and the others will probably then come and seek this out themselves.
Very well said. And we have a lot of our early movers here, many of the people who have expressed interest in doing the vital certification. So we feel very blessed to have all the support, sir.
Good morning, Vinayak ji. This is Rakesh here from TCE. So we are co-creating a lot of projects together, especially the Tata Electronics, semiconductor plant, Agratas, everything together. What I would like to ask you is that the growth rate in the infrastructure and manufacturing space and the building space is exponential currently. And what we are looking at is there are constantly new terms coming into our bidding processes, our construction terminologies, whether it be related to low carbon materials, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emission reduction. Now there are many more new trends coming in, like you have to design your building to a particular carbon emission reduction rate. So I want to know, as consultants, we play a very important role in bringing all those terms to you. But at the contracting stage, because your canvas is so huge, how are you overcoming the skill gap which is required, or the training which is required to understand these terms which are being thrown by the clients, and then putting it into practice and actually delivering it for your clients?
See, for us, I honestly say that there are 2 or 3 elements in which these changes are happening rapidly. Yeah, it's not, your basic design is not changing. Honestly, if you go and look at a motor or a pump or a compressor or how to do a concrete mix, none of those fundamentals are changing, right? So where are the fundamentals changing? They are changing in the sustainability and the EHG space. They are changing in the technology space, right? And they are changing in more methodologies change, right? Different construction methodologies, low carbon, material, prefabricated, long spans, that's where these different things are happening. So my approach is actually very simple. You need in your organization, these positions were not so prominent earlier. You need a very strong CIO at the top table, right? And then they have their own network and they understand how to, translate all these changes which are happening and then lead those change and get the organization behind you. You actually need a head of sustainability. And we brought, someone 2 years ago with a lot of domain experience. And then, that person guides the whole organization through this, right? Comes out with what's coming next, what does it mean, how to translate it to the ground level, right? And for us as, EPC and construction, we need a very strong construction methodologies team, which looks at what are the advances in construction methodologies, how can be things done faster, sustainable, what's happening differently, the floor rises, can they be in 3 days or 5 days, or what shuttering needs to be used, or what long spans can be done, or what modularization, prefabric. So I think these are 2 or 3 elements from the industry. If we have really strong leaders understanding this, they can navigate the whole organization. Thank you.
I'm Kapil Kapoor, Delhi Chapter President in BAC. So, sir, you very well spoke about planning. But, most of the people I met or the consultants always feel that, they get very little time for planning. The moment the client sends his deliverables, they are after the designers to complete the work in a very stipulated time. And it is more kind of thing, they don't, check the viability that how the system is designed. They don't have time to implement new technologies. So how are we going to implement all this, whatever, be it certification, because end of the certification is the end, but not the starting point. You design a system to get that certification, but at the end, we really don't know whether it's going to achieve or not, and then we start all that, where we have gone wrong, how to correct it, and that's going to wait for time.
Yeah.
Second thing is that if I talk about BIM, it's a great tool, but when we start designing and till the time it goes to the construction, everything goes haywire. So, how are you addressing these challenges?
Yeah, I think on the first one, it's an intense problem. One, the time for planning is not there. The second, the resources for planning are very short. Today, at least for the last 10 to 15 years, every organization is struggling with enough planners, right? There might be people who can do P6 and, do that entry and this, but real planners are missing in the industry. So I think we need to have more education systems, more skill building for planners, sorry, which will be part of the solution. And then co-create. You can't bring, as I said earlier, already twice, that, you have to have a system where all components of the project delivery come together at the beginning, not in phases, right? So if we get that and we have the right type of planning resources, the projects will be immensely successful in terms of timely completion. In terms of BIM, I just think it's a discipline issue. Right? As I said, and I mean, not far ago, I was actually a project manager, right? And I give the example of, the oil and gas industry. When I did my last project as a project manager in 2010, 2011, it was a big $3 billion, gas processing facility in some CIS country, which was very landlocked. Yeah. We actually put the whole 3D model right from the beginning, right? We actually, at that time, used to model the 3D structures and, used to do space. We actually exported the STAD into the 3D model, right? So the whole STAD model was exported into the 3D model. Then the space planning was done. Then the structural part of it was exported to Tekla to do the design plan, right? The technology model was exported back. So every nut and bolt projections were actually modeled and the clashes were checked with respect to the pipe. Now, if this can be done in 2009, 2010, it's 15 years technology evolution. If we can't do a simple BIM together, it's of discipline and mindset. The technology is there, the capability is there. And this was done by all engineers sitting out of Mumbai, not someone in the US or Europe. This was completely done by, engineers sitting out of Mumbai. And that was non-existent at that point in time. So, I just feel so strongly about it because I've seen it and, I've done it on my own projects and it needed a lot of effort at that point in time to get all the constituent parts together to do it. But it was possible. So I think that passion of, project managers to say that, look, get out all those excuses. We have to do it on the 3D, on a BIM. Let's figure out a way of doing it. Enough of more and capabilities and resources available.
So before Ashish asks his question, I would like to, sir, share with you. I'm deeply humbled and impressed by last year's work that Ashish did with 150 leaders across India for Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And the ECBC standard, which is Energy Conservation Building Code standard, is now transformed into Energy Conservation Sustainable Building Code. It is under his leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakhee.
Enormous. I can't even imagine how did you do it in 8 months.
Thank you. It's another story that it took us 8 months to write it, but it's now been 12 months. We are waiting for government to to come out with it. So
Yeah, sounds
hopefully it should
familiar.
happen this month. By November, it should happen. So Namaskar, my name is Ashish Rakeja. I represent an electromechanical and sustainability company, and we are the principal designers for the Noida International Airport, which is currently being executed by Tata Projects. You made a very strong statement that the construction industry is 2 decades behind to the hydrocarbon industry. It can be debated because I would have my viewpoints, but having said that, more important is that today the world is changing from a pure design to now a collaborative design where the EPC contractors play a very important role, and you as a Tata Projects have a company like yours have an advantage where you can actually write because you are given that opportunity to design and build. So how is Tata Projects under your lead making a change to the construction industry?
Yeah. So I would say that it's a great question, by the way, and it was not with disrespect I said the two decades, but I think that's another debate we need to have. It's just that we need to accelerate more and more. I would say one of the changes is that when I came on, I looked at everything which is possible, and again, coming from my background of the other industry, I said we are going to be a technology-driven EPC company, right? And it took a year for me to keep saying that. For the organization to understand it, because the question was, what is technology in EPC? Yeah, you go and do construction and you do design, and right. It took me a lot of time because we had to make some investments to educate the board to say what is the technology EPC company. Because they also kept saying, what are you talking about technology? Now, where does this technology element come from, right? It comes from this whole concept of one source of truth for a project. There should be one digital stack where information for that whole project is under one stack, and the different parts of engineering, procurement, construction uses the same information stack and project planning software to interoperate the various operations within a project, right? The easier part is doing the design integration. The difficult part is integrating that with your scheduling and construction, right? For example, we have this Pune Metro project going. This is the first one in which we adopted technology of a local company called Visilian, where once in 2 weeks we fly a drone around this whole formation of 23 kilometers. And the whole metro construction is mapped onto a digital platform. And it gives a view of what has to be constructed in the next 15 days, right? So the construction is integrated into that 3D model. So it tells us, and when the drone flies in 2 weeks, it gives you a difference between where it should have been. So there are color codes which tell you where it should have been and where it is, right? So this is only the beginning, right? So there are a lot of such bespoke, unfortunately, we had to set up, it took more time for us to set up our whole ERP system in a single integrated stack, because you can't have, unless the information is on one system, you can't, use that. So it takes a little bit of time. But in that meantime, we have tried these type of bespoke applications. At least the top 10 sites, I can sit in my office and look at the progress which is happening on those sites on a weekly basis. So I just think there is an enormous opportunity to use the digital tools to make the monitoring and planning and the delivery of projects more efficient. And that's what we are setting out to do in Tata Projects.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
We would request Mrs. Smita Patil to be on stage to felicitate Vinayak Pai, sir. Yeah.